If I saw something was difficult, I wanted to master it. I was driven to do that, just to see how far I could go in these multiple directions. And that left me vulnerable to one thing. When there's no elephants under the rug and everyone's playing, if you ever have that, you should consider yourself.
I think you gotta have a dream.
The School of Greatness.
Really? Yeah.
Please welcome Lewis Howes.
Is there anything any skills you wish you would have developed in your 20s that you didn't develop sooner? Maybe you have them now.
Well, I've really thought about that. I've really thought about that recently.
What would those few skills be that you wish you would have developed and you wish everyone would develop?
Well, when my health fell apart and I was in the hospital or multiple hospitals for long periods of time, you know, I stopped doing everything I was doing. And everything I was doing was difficult. My clinical practice was difficult. The professorial job was difficult. The company I was running was difficult. The writing was difficult. The podcasting and interviewing was difficult. Yeah, the lecturing was difficult. It was all difficult. And I'm not complaining about the difficulty. I actually loved that. That was fine. I'm not complaining about it at all. But because, you know, it's like, well, what I started doing back in December really is when I started working again, although I had been writing to some degree over the last 2 years. I started doing it was podcasts like difficult, and I'm not complaining about the difficulty. They're not easy.
Yeah.
You have to be, again, I'm not complaining. I love doing them. They're really interesting. But you have to be engaging, and you have to be sharp, and you have to not say anything stupid, and you can't be too emotional, and you can't be angry, and or that has to be very controlled, and you have to pay attention and focus, and you have to line people up, and it's technically difficult, and you have to advertise it, and you have to get the social media right, and you have to monitor the social media, you have to stay up on current events, and you have to see who you're going to talk to, and it's complicated. And I have people helping me, and they're helpful and great, but there was no, well, I'm going to go there's no beginner have a YouTube channel that 1 million people watch, right? So, and it's something you can really screw up publicly and catastrophically.
Yeah.
It was very daunting.
Yeah.
Very. What I should have done when I was in my 20s and 30s is that I should have cultivated some activities that were less demanding. Look, I went to a baseball game when I lived in Boston. It was the only baseball game I think I ever went to. No, I've probably gone to 2 or 3, but it was the first time I'd gone to a baseball game, a professional baseball game. I thought, Jesus, baseball, who would go watch that? It's so bloody slow. It's like nothing happens.
It is slow.
It's so slow. It's nothing happens. And I have like 50 other things I should be doing. And I went there, and then I realized I was looking at all these people, and I thought, they're not even paying any attention to the baseball game. They're like talking to their friends, and they're drinking beer, and they're eating popcorn. And then I thought, yeah, that's the point, fool. That's the point. They're going there for that. Like, you get to talk to your friends now and then. Someone hits a baseball, and you can look at that, and that's kind of interesting, and you can eat popcorn, and it's like they're relaxing. They're not, you know, climbing Mount Everest. They're just relaxing.
Right.
And you know, one of the things I've learned, this is a good thing to talk about. It's really dangerous to be casually contemptuous.
What does that mean?
Well, I've seen many professors who are contemptuous of business people. Right. Well, they don't have businesses, and they're angry that the business people can make all sorts of money. And so, and that's a whole skill set they don't have. And so maybe they'd have to feel inadequate about that if they thought about it. And then I've talked to lots of business people who, you know, regard professors as in the ivory tower and, you know, an easy job. It's like, yeah, well, you try lecturing and see how easy it is about a complex subject and publishing. It's not easy. It's really hard, just like your job. Casual contempt stops people from investigating things that might be good for them, you know, and well, when I realized that about the baseball game, I thought there's no contemptuousness here. Like clue in, clue in, clue in. There's something here that these people aren't just stupid and going out to a baseball game because they're stupid. You know, it's very easy for us to call people who are doing something that we're not doing stupid. It's like, don't be so sure about that, you know. And it would have been better for me if I would have had a wider variety of skills that weren't so high intensity. I play ping pong with my son. That works out good. Probably could have had another sport or two. I could have had some leisure activities that I got good at. Music might have been good, that weren't so demanding. See, what I tried to do, if I saw something was difficult, I wanted to master it. I was driven to do that, just to see how far I could go in these multiple directions. Right. And that left me vulnerable to one thing. It left me vulnerable to being in a situation where I wasn't healthy enough to manage it.
So you think if you would have had these other leisure hobbies, things that you did for fun and play, you wouldn't be in potentially in this situation?
Well, it would have been easier to get going again. That's for sure. It would have, I think, like I'm trying to sort it out. But someone asked me the other day, do you regret the pathway that you've taken? And that's a question that's worth considering. And the basic answer is, well, I don't know, I guess, in some sense, because if you become extremely ill, especially if it isn't clear why, you don't know what you might have done to contribute to it because you don't know what it is. Yeah. And people say, well, you went on this 160 city tour in a year. Maybe that was too much. It's like, it didn't seem like too much. I really enjoyed it, actually.
Right. You had fun.
It was great.
Dave told me all about how amazing it was, and every night in a new city, and
it was great, but it was also very intense. Right. And I did expose myself to a lot of misery, meeting people, so many thousands of people. I opened myself up to a tremendous amount of misery and longing and pain. And that was very emotionally impactful. But I can't say with certainty that what the consequence of that was.
Right.
I mean, I'd worked as a clinical psychologist for decades, and I had to deal with people who were in trouble all the time. And that was actually an extraordinarily positive enterprise, because although I was dealing with very serious issues and people were in trouble, they were on a good path and getting better. And we were collaborating in that. So it was a lovely enterprise. I loved it. It. In deep conversations, meaningful conversations devoted to making things better. It was great. So
it's tough to know, I guess, then. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's
what I have observed, however, is, so I've been opening up my day to work more and more. So now I work from 3:30 to 6 fairly intensely every day. And I started one day a week, and then it was 2, and then it was 3. And then I could see, was I better when I was working, or was I better when I wasn't working? And the answer was clear. I was better when I was working. And it wasn't just clear to me, it was clear to the people who were watching me.
Right.
And so it looks to me that also indicates that it probably wasn't the work that hurt me. I think it's possible that just too many things happened at once.
Yeah.
That's possible. It certainly distracted me. Right. And so maybe I wasn't paying attention to exactly the right thing. So, but I don't know. I don't know yet, and maybe never will.
So that's one skill you wish you would have developed in your kind of your 20s. What's maybe 2 other skills you wish you would have developed sooner?
That's pretty much, that's as far as I've got with that line of thinking.
Yeah. What do you think of the skills that people should start to develop in their 20s in general to make them better human beings, more potentially open to success financially, relationship, health-wise? What are 2 or 3 things that everyone should focus on in their 20s?
Well, it certainly doesn't